you for joining us on the first day of spring. I'm Janet Nordia, one of your Mascumilla Learning hosts for today. While our last minute attendees join the session, I would like to run through a few housekeeping points to ensure a pleasant experience for everyone. As much as we would like to see everyone's beautiful faces, we would like you to please keep your cameras off to preserve the call quality. Our host and author speaker will switch their cameras on for the discussion and Q&A session. Please can you also stay on mute unless you are addressing the session. There will be a time for you to ask questions, but if you would prefer, you can also pop your questions into the chat box. And lastly, please note the session will be recorded and circulated after the event. We have a jam-packed agenda for you today. I'm first going to do a quick introduction to the company and who we are and where we've come from. I'll then introduce our speakers. We're then going to jump into an overview of the title and highlight some of its key features. We're excited to have one of our authors who will be sharing with us about what makes this title exceptional. And then we'll open the floor for to you all for a Q&A session, and we invite you to participate. We'll then close off with an explanation of how to access the book and who to contact. So I'm going to do a quick introduction to who is Mascumilla Learning. You'll have known us in the past as Pearson South Africa. However, in 2022, Pearson South Africa sold their shares of the business to Novus Holdings. So now, although we have a new name and a new look and feel, we still provide high quality learning products and services that are meaningful to our local industry and make a real difference in the lives of students. Our purpose is to enable students to move forward by providing trusted, quality educational resources and materials for a brighter future through learning. I'm going to just give you a quick, play you a quick video now.
You're on mute, Janet, if you're talking.
Thank you for that. That was so I didn't have my sound. Let me start that again. Thank you, everyone. My name is Janet Nodia. I'm the product manager for the TVET and higher ed lists here at Mascumilla. And we have joining me from Mascumilla is Simi Khati and Michelle Majorca, our two key account managers. And then I would also like to introduce you to our author speaker for today. We have Professor Johan Marx. He is a staff member in the Department of Finance, Risk Management and Banking at UNISA. He has 37 years of experience in academia and is currently responsible for the honours module in writing a research report. He has published in various local and international journals and supervised 7 masters and 8 doctoral students to completion. He was chair of the Department of Finance, Risk Management and Banking from 2007 to 2012 and director of the School of Management Sciences from January 2013 to June 2016. Thanks for joining us today, Johan. There are 5 contributing authors on the new edition, and they represent 3 higher education institutions. The addition of Professor Marius Pretorius and Dr. Wesley Rosalind Smith from University of Pretoria is particularly noteworthy, as they are leading experts in the subject of business continuity management. Before I hand over to Zimi, I'm quickly going to highlight some of our other essential business titles that we publish. We have a comprehensive range of business titles, including Managing Public Money, Risk Management, and Applied Strategic Marketing. We are particularly thrilled that a very important and timely update is being made to Managing Public Money, and the 4th edition is due to be ready for the 2024 academic year. I'm now going to hand over to Zimi for a quick overview of the title for today.
Thank you so much, Janet, for that great introduction. So I'll be taking you through the features of the book. So Introduction to Financial Management in Southern Africa, 6th edition, is an accessible book in managerial finance for the undergraduate student, written from an African perspective and using South African examples. It has visual integration of fundamental concepts in the form of a chapter infographic, which gives an overview of the core framework of each chapter. It also has extensive use of graphs, tables, and mind maps to illustrate and support content. Also, a comprehensive set of critical thinking and self-test questions at the end of each chapter to provide self-assessment opportunity. Design and layout has been implemented for the new edition. This textbook includes many rich features that expand the key themes of the discipline, and these elements include the following: chapter infographics, which give the student a bird's eye view of the core framework of each chapter. And this helps the student to start connecting related topics together from the very start of each chapter. And also it can be used as a reinforcement and study tool when preparing for tests and assessments. There are also learning outcomes and also the introduction, which gives the student an introduction to the chapter and what will be covered in it. There are also definitions or key terms that provide a clear definition close to in-text mention for easy reference. There are over 320 key terms to assist students to understand the core theory. There are also examples which show students how the theory works in practice and provide the sequential steps in different mathematical problems. There are around 50 activity boxes that challenge students to apply their knowledge in real life situations and also to anticipate various management challenges that may face in practice. There are also figures, tables, color diagrams, and also images to enhance understanding. The challenge resources students to aid with retention. Self-study questions allow students to check that they grasp the subject matter, and a variety of multiple choice exercises and critical thinking exercises are also included. Further reading provides additional sources that students can use to explore the subject further. At the end of the book are recommended solutions to self-test, multiple choice, and integrated questions and critical thinking questions. This edition may also be used with using financial calculators for time of money calculations, a useful resource to anyone studying or working in the field of financial management. Our last set of features are the lecturer support material, which are the PowerPoint slides that actually save the lecturer time and support different teaching styles. They're also easy to incorporate in the classroom. They were specifically developed for this edition, and they provide a valuable teaching tool as well as a visual summary of every chapter in the book. Also, the extensive test bank of assessment questions, and also these resources should be available at the end of November. I'll now hand over to Michelle and Janet for the author discussion. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thanks so much, Zami, for that overview. We've now gotten to the part of our webinar where we will be having our author discussion and our author engagement. Just a reminder that in order to conserve the bandwidth, we would just like speakers only to activate their cameras and reserve all questions to the end of the discussion. If you would like to address the speakers directly, you may raise your hand, use the raise your hand function in Teams, and Karen will advise when you can come off mute. However, if you would prefer, you may pop any questions into the chat box and Karen will pose them to the speakers on your behalf. I'm now handing over to Michelle. Michelle, you're also on mute.
Thank you so much, Janet, for that. Thank you so much, Zimi, for the overview of the key features. We'd like to welcome Prof. Marks. Thank you so much for taking the time to actually have the discussion with us. And we're obviously looking forward to hearing a lot more about this wonderful title. It's now in its sixth edition, and financial management in Southern Africa provides a concise and up-to-date explanation of financial management in the context of Southern Africa. Can you discuss the insights and development that went into this particular new edition, being the sixth edition of the publication?
Yeah, thank you very much for that introduction. I think a warm word of welcome to all of the staff from Maskew Miller Longman and all the people who are attending our webinar this morning. To answer your question, sound financial management will always be crucial to the success of any business firm. We need not look further than our local state-owned enterprises to find evidence of this reality. Any business is established first and foremost to serve people's needs and wants by means of a product, or to solve a problem by means of a service. Therefore, the point of departure for our sixth edition is serving people's needs, because if that is achieved effectively and efficiently, then financial success should follow automatically. The financial crisis of 2008 to 2010, the COVID pandemic, the current war raging in the Ukraine are just a few of the events that have made the business world more volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous. So managing finance in such turbulent times really requires responsible leadership. And therefore, in Chapter 1, attention is given to the role of the business model and strategy of the firm, the operating environment, as well as the various stakeholders involved. And as we all know, there's an increasing role for paying attention to ecological, societal, and economic sustainability. We cannot continue destroying the soil, the water, the air, the fauna and flora that we depend on for our livelihoods. Society needs business, and business needs society. They are dependent on each other. We can no longer manage a firm solely with the interests of maximizing shareholders' wealth and short-term profit as the only objective. So this edition, therefore, also devotes some attention to the competencies required of a chief financial officer. In other words, the knowledge, the skills, the values, attitude, and experience needed to be successful in the current competitive yet volatile and uncertain environment. It's against this backdrop of changes that are occurring in our world that this book aims to contribute to better financial decision making, with a focus on Southern Africa and the South African context by using for local examples, local currency, the local financial markets, and local economic conditions.
Thank you so much for that, Prof. You did speak about how volatile the business world is and how much has changed in the past couple of years and all of these developments. Can you maybe just let us or give us a little bit of insight of the content that has been added in this particular edition, in the sixth edition?
Sure, let's look at that. In Chapter 1, specifically, we addressed many of the aspects I just mentioned. But we also included some practical examples in each chapter instead of just covering theory and calculations, and added some more color photos and images to make the book more interesting to the students and to reinforce the Southern African look and feel. But before I forget, I wish to acknowledge Mapolo Morake at the Vaal University of Technology for updating our chapters about working capital. Thank you very much, Mapolo. I think we've made a particular effort to provide the student with some more background about key economic indicators and about understanding how the financial accounting principles are applied when compiling the financial statements, as well as linking financial management with the strategy of a firm and taking economic conditions into account. Now, I think one of the key things we did was, for example, in the chapter on cash management, where we not only explain the controls over cash, the internal controls, but also look at ways in which firms handling physical cash could get their payments by means of non-cash solutions. For example, using SnapScan and Zapper to reduce the risk of losing cash due to crime. In the chapter on capital budgeting, for example, we have now introduced decision tree analysis to the students so that when you're doing capital budgeting, you no longer look just at one scenario to plan for making long-term decisions. So I think those are two of the key changes we've made this year to the book and things we incorporated this time around.
Thank you so much. Just wanted to find out, are there any unique features that are special to both the South and the Southern African market in this publication?
Yeah, I think most financial textbooks include a chapter on business failure and liquidation. Normally, that's the final chapter of any finance book. In our case, we took a more positive approach, and since we have this unique thing in Southern Africa, or South Africa, I should say, about business rescue, we replaced such a chapter with a chapter on business rescue, excellently written by Prof. Marius Pretorius and Wesley Rosalind Smith, both from the University of Pretoria. And I think that's one very unique feature of this particular book that we included.
Thank you. Zimi took us through all of the key features and we looked at, all of basically what makes the book very unique. Are there any key features that stand out for you that, make a difference in terms of student engagement, that stand out for you in particular?
Definitely, we've tried to make the book as engaging as possible. And we're not covering theory from the beginning to the end. We have included many practical examples and some critical thinking activities that the student may use for self-reflection and to prepare for the real world after completion of his or her studies. I think the use of the financial calculator for virtually all the calculations have been demonstrated. And as you indicated earlier, the book also comes with that booklet demonstrating the use of both the Hewlett-Packard 10B2 and the Texas BA2 financial calculators. So I think those are really some of the aspects I enjoyed when I wrote the book, to make it unique, to make it more practical, and I think especially to not only get the student to think of these concepts, but to also think how economic conditions will influence your decision making when doing these kind of decisions.
Thank you for that. I think that will be definitely a lot more student engagement. There are more than 30 thought-provoking critical thinking questions to challenge the students' understanding, an expanded bank of self-test questions that you spoke about, with more than 200 multiple choice questions as well as short questions and long questions. Can you elaborate on the approach that was taken in designing these questions and elements?
Yeah, as indicated in my opening remarks, if you think about us as academics working on developing students, then I think too often we place the emphasis just on knowledge, on theory and calculations and memorizing these things, but we also need to equip our students with thinking and decision-making skills within the context of our economic realities. So these questions are really there to stimulate the financial and economic thinking of our students by requiring them to use both divergent thinking and convergent thinking so that they master the subject of finance properly.
Perfect. Earlier you spoke about it being, directed at students in the working world, and we know that, the employability skills are a key focus within higher education at the moment, and success in their future careers as well. Can you maybe speak to some of the activities or challenges that allow the students to actually apply their real life situations and anticipate, the different management challenges that they may actually face in practice? And anything else that you can think of that would be, helping within their employability skills once, they've actually completed their studies.
Yeah, yeah, I think over and above just confronting them with some key decisions they're going to have to make in future with the critical thinking and real life kind of economic situations we pose in some of the scenarios. I think we've succeeded in even touching on some futures thinking in the book. In the chapter on risk and return, for example, we asked them if they are going to wait for certainty before making any decisions about the future or not, as well as if one could depend on historical information to predict the future. Now, the future is never a linear continuation of the past, and our students need to grasp this reality before venturing into the real world. So that's the kind of thing we try to achieve with these questions that we included.
Thank you so much for that one. Just before we open the floor to all of the delegates that do want to ask any questions, can you explain how this publication will support and enlighten lecturers' teaching delivery for financial management in particular?
Yeah, I think the PowerPoint slides are being updated at the moment, so those will be ready by next year. I think even if you don't have to prepare PowerPoint slides, it's a lot of work to do it, and I think the slides will alleviate the workload of academics. I'm in the process of updating the questions and the database of questions that we provide to lecturers, and also looking at incorporating more MS Excel spreadsheets. And I think the spreadsheets will really be a valuable addition both in teaching and for assessment purposes. So those are new features that will be available from January 2024.
Thank you so much. We know that lecturers definitely love any resources that they can utilize in the classroom. So it's always great when we are able to actually give them that. But thank you so much, Prof. Marks. It was great speaking to you. And I will then, give the baton back to Janet to open the floor for any delegates that might have any questions that they would like to ask you. But it was a great discussion. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thanks very much, Michelle. And to say we've now reached the part of our webinar where we're going to open it up to anyone on the anyone who is in the webinar who would like to ask Johan about any of the about the title and its development. Thanks. If you would prefer to pop questions into the chat box, you're welcome to do that as well. Prof. Marks, I actually did have a question just around the in terms of the leveling of where the book is written for. Ideally, where does this fit into the into where a student is studying financial management? At what level would they be looking at this book?
I think, Janet, to answer your question, it's mainly written for second and third year students in the BCom, business management and those kind of fields. But I think one could equally use it for students that's working at postgraduate level but who have not studied finance ever before. So as a first introduction to financial management, I think this could even be used, for example, for engineering students who have to study finance for the very first time. I think this is a good start for them as well.
Excellent.
Okay, Janet, we have a hand up from Prof. Hall. I have allowed the speaker, so you can just unmute yourself, Prof. Hall. Thank you.
Good morning, colleagues. Good morning, Johan. And congratulations with your book. I think it's an excellent book. I just want to know something which we are also struggling with. They say students and young people don't want to read anymore nowadays. We're struggling with that. Don't you think we should, with our textbooks, include some sound, in the sense that maybe to a website where they can, listen to a synopsis of parts of the book or the book, because like I've said, they carry this book around and they don't use it optimally. What is your thoughts on bridging and getting to students and an increasing student population that don't want to read anymore?
John, I think that's an excellent suggestion. I noticed that many lecturers these days include videos from YouTube and play some short videos, even if it's 2-3 minutes, where people either produce or talk about management topics, even if it's TED Talks or some of the other productions or YouTube, and to give the students a brief summary or a more practical feel and a view of what they are doing. So I think that's a very good suggestion. That's something we can take forward. Something you realize once you publish a book is that it's never complete. It's always a work in progress. So yes, that could be a handy addition that we could include, even if we have to produce videos and put it onto YouTube, so that students can access it there, or the lecturers can go and access it there and show it to their students, where an interview is held with someone, a captain from industry, or where some of our academic lecturers around South Africa can really address some of the aspects and explain it in a bit more detail, but in a short video, instead of carrying on for half an hour on some of these topics. So John, no, thank you for that suggestion. That's something we can really follow up. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Thanks, Johan. Yes, I agree with you, YouTube. One more thing while I've got the floor and I'm going is, have you had any thoughts of how we're going to battle our new enemy, ChatGPT? The other day there was one of our third year tests, and the students did very badly in the test. There was a low average. So I asked the lecturer, put the test through ChatGPT, and lo and behold, ChatGPT passed the test. So I was wondering, ChatGPT is becoming such a big a threat, but also a big help. How do you think we can incorporate that in financial management, in this field which me and you have delved ourselves in for decades, machine learning and artificial intelligence? How can we incorporate that? And also in future, I think in our textbooks. Have you got any ideas on that?
Well, John, artificial intelligence takes so many forms. Some of it's very constructive and positive. I mean, I'm a user of artificial intelligence when I use Grammarly to check my English grammar and spelling. which is a very, very handy tool. But as you say, ChatGPT has definitely now opened new doors and avenues for students to save a lot of time. I think if it's used responsibly, it could be valuable. Just a week ago, I used ChatGPT to just identify some themes for me, and I told GPT in 250 words, explain to me what the main themes are when it comes to artificial intelligence of all topics. And it came back with 4 major themes that run through all the research, and that's a very good starting point. It saved me about a week's time going through articles, because now I can really go and focus on those 4 themes and search for articles in Google Scholar to deal with, for example, artificial intelligence and technological advances, or artificial intelligence and ethics, regulation, and those kind of things. So I think there's a positive role, but we as academics will have to definitely up our game when it comes to assessing students. We can no longer ask questions that ChatGPT will answer for them, and I think that to me is the danger of artificial intelligence. That it has the potential of taking away precisely what we're trying to teach students, and that is to think independently for themselves, to think critically, but also to think creatively. And I think when it comes to our assessments, we're going to have to assess in such a way that ChatGPT won't be able to do the calculations or just provide the answer. And we also have a responsibility to really educate our students about the responsible use of artificial intelligence. I think we're not going to get rid of artificial intelligence, and so we'll have to adapt and up our game, as I say, especially when it comes to assessments.
Okay, thanks, Johan, for this. Just a last remark. We were working this week on something to see whether ChatGPT can write a whole dissertation for you in certain sections, and and yes, ChatGPT can really do a lot of good and I think a lot of harm. I've also used it to for a presentation that I did somewhere, and just to get a framework for it. But it's a great help. Thank you. That's all from me. All of the best for the rest of your book.
Thank you so much for your engagement, Prof. Hall. And I actually just wanted to maybe come in on the AI thing. I was at an interesting conference last week. It was actually the University of Pretoria Flexible Futures Conference, where a lot of the focus was obviously talking about artificial intelligence in the higher education space. And there were some of the lecturers who were already starting to ask. I mean, obviously, we know Pandora's box is open. So students are using this tool, and yet they don't actually know how to use it. And it was interesting that one of the questions that one of the lecturers had posed to the students, they felt that in an assignment that there were a lot of them that there were firstly only about 13% that weren't using it. So it's widespread, it's prevalent. And then there were some of the comments from the students that actually said that they felt hindered after they used it, because it did, as you say, Johan, it impacts on the creativity, the ability for someone to actually break out of a box. Once ChatGPT has given you an answer, it's so much easier to stay in that. So, and then, but yet there were other students who felt that it did actually kind of, give them a little bit of a springboard, start getting those juices flowing. So I think it's also very dependent on the student themselves that's working with it. But I think I read an interesting newsletter. I follow a man by the name of Mike Stopford on LinkedIn in general. He's a digital strategist in the local space, and he wrote a really interesting newsletter about this analogy of AI almost being like a power tool. And he was like, a power tool in the hands of someone who is trained, someone who knows what they're doing. That power tool, you can, number one, get incredible things done incredibly quickly, and you put it in the hands of a novice and they actually do not know what to do with it. And on the flip side of it, you also put a power tool in the hands of someone who doesn't know what they're doing. They're probably going to land up in a hospital somewhere. So it's really about education and that double-edged sword of, we know that AI is here to stay. So looking at how is it that we use this tool in life responsibly, to get the best out, but to not have it destroy our critical thinking, just taking the easy way out, trying to write your own dissertation or thesis, without any kind of research. And obviously there's, AI has been around for a long time, but just the absolute whirlwind of how it started, with the automated generative AI that was released, in November with GPT, it's just that it's become so prevalent so quickly. So yeah, also just needing to keep our heads about us, and power through.
Yeah, maybe I can add to that. We had for our master's program a certain module there where students had to hand in assignments. And of course, we checked everything through Turnitin, and Turnitin show you your AI percentage. And there was most students have got the AI percentage below 10%. We set at University of Pretoria about 15% AI percentage. But then we found a number of students that had an AI percentage. There was one of 93%. So we had to warn the student. He had to resubmit. He didn't fare a lot better, and in the end there was one or two students that we failed due to that. So we check their percentages, and if they don't shape up after one warning, we just mark them down. So it is a big problem, and like I've said, even with our master students, no?
Indeed. Are there any other questions from the floor? Anyone who wants to throw in anything around AI or just anything about the book?
Janet, while we wait, I don't want to add some more petrol to the fire, but John, apparently Google is coming up with similar AI that would make ChatGPT look like it's seminal work. Apparently, Google is going to have far more advanced AI apps in the near future, but I don't want to spoil your Friday.
No, Johan, I know about it. And even the Chat GPT, or the advanced one, I think, where you pay $20 a month. No? And that is even more powerful. Our Director of Education Innovation, Prof. Gerard Stolz, demonstrated some of those things to us. Yeah, that's really powerful if you're prepared to pay that $20 a month for that. So, yeah. No, nice chat about it, Johan. We should chat more if we run into each other in a restaurant in Brooklyn. See you.
May I join you for that discussion? Joking. Any other questions from the floor before we go off and close the and just do the closing?
There's no more questions on the floor. Thanks.
Okay,
Don't see any
fantastic.
raised hands.
In which case, I'm just going to go over into the to the final bit of the presentation. And I'm going to hand back to Zimi.
Thank you, Janet. Thank you for that interesting discussion, Prof. And Michelle. So the book is available in both print and ebook, and our print publication is available from bookstores once you've prescribed it. And some of our features of the ebook include highlighting, being able to make notes, which are also easily accessible, and also being able to search for keywords. So in summary, the book includes a visual integration of fundamental concepts in the form of a chapter infographic, which gives students a bird eye view of the core framework of each chapter. Also extensive use of graphs, tables, and mind maps, which illustrate and support content. There's also approximately 50 activity boxes that challenge students to apply their knowledge in real life situations and also to anticipate various management challenges that they may face in practice. Also, a larger user-friendly design layout, which encourages an understanding of the fundamental concepts and techniques of financial management. Also, lecturer support material, which includes the PowerPoint slides of the key concepts in the book and an extensive test bank of assessment questions, which I did say should be available at the end of November. And also, this edition may be used with using financial calculators for time value of money calculations, a useful resource to anyone studying or working in the field of financial management. I'll now hand over back to Janet to close for us. Thank you.
Thanks again, Zimi. And just to say, if you are interested in looking at the new edition of Financial Management in Southern Africa, 6th edition, you can get hold of Zimi or Michelle, depending on where you are based. So if you're in the Eastern, Western, Northern Cape or Free State and Mpumalanga in the Northwest, you can get hold of Zimi. And then if you are based in KwaZulu-Natal, Gauteng or Limpopo, Michelle will be happy to assist you. And that brings us to the end of our webinar today. I would really like to thank you for joining us for the Beyond the Words webinar, Financial Management in Southern Africa, 6th edition. We really do value your time and trust that you've enjoyed the session. I really enjoyed the engagement today. And we particularly want to thank Johan for sharing his insights. A copy of the webinar and a certificate of attendance will be sent to you. Everything of the best for the rest of your day, and goodbye.
Thank you, Janet. Thank you, Prof.
It's a pleasure. Thank you, everyone, and enjoy your weekend.
Thank you,
Bye.
everybody. Bye,
Thank
everybody.
you.
Bye.